We've called this session the last line of defence, but before we get there, let's just briefly talk about the other options you must go through first. All too often, I've had to investigate accidents where the basic rules were not followed or implemented. And after all, no one goes to work looking for or even planning to have an accident, but sadly, it's a human trait. To save time, we all cut corners and convince ourselves it's okay. So the simplest way to keep safe around electricity or any other hazard for that matter is to follow one of the many hierarchy of control models. Personally, my preference is e.r.i.c PD, and it's a very easy to remember mnemonic.
And here he is. This is the part I've been looking forward to the most, where we introduce the Skanwear Academy e.r.i.c PD mascot. What do you think, Graham?
I think he's great. And there's lots of evidence around to show that an association helps people remember, and having a mascot around the site is always a good reminder to people, hey, don't forget your hierarchy of controls. So e.r.i.c PD, he stands for Eliminate, Reduce, Isolate, Control, PP and Discipline. So there you are, e.r.i.c PD.
Yeah, and it's really important to stick to that hierarchy of controls when considering the hazards, as it acts as a reminder of your defences. I think it's all too easy to get sucked straight into PPE, safe systems of work and training, but it's just clearly not the best way forward.
Absolutely true. The higher the control, the stronger and more reliable that control is. So preferably wherever reasonably practical, we have to use these measures. The reason that the first three are more effective is because they're examples of safe place strategies, whereas the last three are safe person strategies. So let's quickly run through e.r.i.c PD starting from the top. So E is to eliminate. So where the job is redesigned as to remove the hazard completely, it's usually started at the design phase of the project by providing the proper technology. So if the hazard elimination is not successful or practicable, then the next control measure is reduce or substitute. And a good example would be to reduce the incident energy exposure. So we measure the voltage or the current further downstream where there's less energy available. And if there's no suitable practical replacement or substitution, then the next control measure is isolation. And this is simply, as the name says, physically separating the hazard from the operator or introducing engineering controls using additional machinery. And with electricity, for argument's sake, we could actually introduce remote switching.
Okay, so there you have the first three controls where the hazard is reduced or made safe to take people out of harm's way. The next set of controls are basic administration, and it needs to be known that the hazard is fully present, it's still dangerous, and we're now relying on people following the rules. Just while I've got you guys, I'm going to do a quick poll where I'm asking the simple question of, do you have an arc flash PPE policy? If you could just take a quick second to answer yes or no on this question. And by the way, the answers are anonymous, so you can be honest about that. I'll just give you a couple more minutes just to answer. Okay, that's great. That's 82% of you saying that yes, you do, which was really, really great to hear. For those of you who don't have a policy or that do and want to have a re-evaluation, then we do offer a free electrical safety health check, which will audit your site to assess the risk level. And you can get in touch with us using that email address at the top of the screen, and we'll be in touch. Okay, so moving forward now. We're going to move on to the safe person strategies, remembering that the hazard is still present.
Yeah, and as Lorna said, administration controls or safe systems of work. Examples of this could include things like permits, the provision of training, and performance of risk assessments. But as Lorna said earlier, we're solely relying on people to follow the rules. And then after that, we actually move on to PPE. And as we all know, this is the last resort. So PPE may be used as a temporary control measure until an alternative is installed. However, having said that, there are often many situations where we do have to don our PPE when working with electricity. For example, switching, checking for dead and applying earths. And then finally, we have discipline. And discipline, it's all about team discipline. It's about looking after each other. And this involves the communication of clear safety rules. And sadly, communication is often neglected. I've investigated accidents where team members don't even know what the other team members are actually doing, what their task is for the day. We can also use a variety of safety signs to remind people, and also by making sure that managers and supervisors set a good example. Which reminds me that if you want a support pack, please contact academy@skanwear.com. And ultimately, unfortunately, sometimes it does mean involving the company's disciplinary procedures. However, in my opinion, this should only be reserved for willful disregard or deliberate acts.
So there's quite a lot going on there, which would be easy to forget, which goes to show why the e.r.i.c PD mascot is a really handy thing to bear in mind. So now you might be wondering, why should I bother? In the last Academy session, we showed the devastating effects an arc flash can have as we watched the survivor video of Donnie Johnson, who almost died in an arc flash blast.
Yeah, that's right, Lorna. The injuries can be life-changing, both physically and mentally, and the healing time can be months, even years. So, to recap very briefly the effects of an arc flash. An arc flash is an event, it really is a violent event that can cause destruction of the equipment which is involved in, fire, injury, death, but not only to the worker, but to anyone else who's standing nearby. So what we have is a fireball with temperatures of 19,500 degrees, which will burn 10 feet away. And remember, it rolls around you. It's a 360 experience. It's not just coming at you from the front. And then we have the ejection, a plasma ball of copper vapor and droplets, hot shrapnel, for example, bolt heads and rivets. And then we have the intense bright light, hence the importance of the visor to block the UV light. The blast is upwards of 2,000 pounds a square foot, and it will definitely blow you off your feet. And if you happen to be on a ladder, it will blow you off the ladder. Absolutely no doubt about it. And the noise, again, it's got 140 decibels. It's like standing next to a gun going off. And the resultant outcome of that is second and third degree burns, vaporization of digits, amputation of hands and fingers, blindness, possible deafness, and very severe debilitating injuries, and possibly even death.
Which is really quite scary when you look at those and you realise how quickly these can happen and just how eye-opening they are. Graham, can you tell us what the basic common sense precautions are that we should be considering when getting prepared for work?
Certainly, and this is what a lot of people don't actually look at. So we're going to start off. So only wear natural fibres next to the skin. Man-made fibres will melt into your skin, and again, I've seen this happen, and it's not very pleasant. So all clothing needs to be loose-fitting, and this gives the added benefit of extra insulation. And the next point is always very, very emotive. So it's no jewellery of any kind whatsoever, and I really mean that, period. So that means no rings, no watches, no necklaces, no body piercings, no metal belts or buckles, no metal rimmed glasses, and ladies, if you're working, no underwire bras or fastening. And the reason is very, very simple. Any metal will heat up very quickly and cool down very slowly. And the skin can basically melt around onto the metal. It's very painful, and that jewellery will very likely have to be surgically removed. And again, I've seen this, and it's not a pleasant experience. Next, we always got to check our PPE very, very carefully before using it. Don't be tempted to wear damaged kit. And finally, please don't get mixed up between fire-resistant and arc clothing.
Do you think we could just chat through what the differences actually are? Am I right in thinking that all arc-rated clothing is flame-resistant, but not all flame-resistant clothing is arc-rated?
That's actually spot on. As the name implies, arc-rated clothing fabric is subject to a series of arc flash to determine how much energy it can block before it's likely to cause the wearer a second-degree burn 50% of the time. And this amount is known as the arc thermal protected value, the ATPV. And the ATPV is measured in calories of heat per heat energy per square centimetres. And the higher the arc rating value, the greater the protection. So this makes the difference between arc rated versus flame resistant clothing clear. Clothing rated as flame resistant may not provide sufficient protection for workers in environments where an arc flash hazard exists.
To me, it seems easy to see how all this could be quite confusing for people, but obviously it is essential that we all know exactly what our requirements are for the specific job. So speaking of requirements, I'm going to move on now to see what they actually are.
So it's a full suit we have here. So we need the head needs to be covered, and if you have facial hair or long hair, it needs to be protected. And if you wear nets, then they have to be arc rated as well. The eyes, we both need safety glasses and a face shield, and the face shield is primarily to protect the wearer against UV. On the hearing front, we need specialist earplugs to cope with the extreme loud noise. And the body, the clothing needs to be worn correctly. There should be no gaps. And recently I went to a conference where the medics were actually explaining how an arc flash had got inside a suit and it couldn't get out, and it caused the guy extreme burns. Then moving on to the hands and arms, we need to make sure we're wearing insulated gloves to protect from the electric shock, and then outer leather gloves to protect from the flames. And on our feet, we really do need electrical safety boots. And just one word I'd like to say here is that these shouldn't be used as primary protection against the electric shock.
Okay, so with that in mind, and just before we get on to looking at clothes, I just want to go over those ATPV categories that you were just talking about. So this table just shows what level of protection is needed for each category. Very useful information to have. Don't forget, guys, that this is all available for you after we finish, so I will send it across to you so you've got it there handy. Now, Graham, I think it's time that we get dressed. You'll see on these next slides I've included the product codes for the garments, as all of which you can actually buy from Skanwear. So we'll start at the basics, and here you can see the recommended underwear. We encourage everyone to wear either cotton or silk boxers, but definitely not synthetic fabrics like nylon or polyester. I'm not sure how many people actually own silk boxers, but it is an option. So moving on to the next layer now. I think this is actually a really smart, totally realistic outfit to wear throughout the day. Because it's made from arc-resistant material, you'll know that you'll be protected. And how will you know that for sure? Because we display it in plain sight. Any clothing that you see with that red and white A logo is from our Strata brand, which is only available from Skanwear.
Yeah, I agree. I've said it before and I've said it time and time again. I like to see how easily you can recognise what level of protection people are actually wearing, and with this it stands out a mile.
Exactly. So instead of that collared shirt, we'll just show you another option that you can wear. Let's just have a look. So we've got a long-sleeved t-shirt, which is a fine base layer. And layering up with all of our Strata garments, it's just not a problem, as the product design team here makes sure that all the fabrics are lightweight and inherent. Again, as we've mentioned, on all the clothes the category rating is right there for you to see, so there never needs to be any question of, am I protected? So now we've seen the basics. Here's where we're going to start with one option for when you need to load up for entering a higher risk area. The balaclava is really important to protect the whole head, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah, and we've got to make sure it covers the nose as well, or else it can't really do its job properly. The true colour visor is really effective in that it won't distort your view. You'll actually be able to see true colour. Plus, don't forget, you also need your safety glasses on.
Exactly. So now we've got that true colour visor that we've just mentioned, the one where we're offering a discount on. The clever part about this visor is it doesn't distort your view while still keeping the same properties that will protect your eyes from the UV rays, the infrared light and all the other shrapnel that can come your way. And actually it has one of the highest ratings for projectile impact, so you know that you're in good company. We've got that promo code coming up soon, guys, so you can get your hands on a visor at a great offer price. I'm just going to do the last poll of the session, where I'll be asking what type of face protection do you use, if any? So again, if you just answer those questions quickly for me so we can get on with the slides. I'm really pleased to see that the majority of you are saying, you know, full face clear visor. Only 8% are saying nothing at all, which 6%. So it, you know, it's a really positive sign that we are looking after ourselves out there. Okay, so moving now on to the next slide. So we're going to look at layering up. So this is where you can put this overall on top of one of those options that you've just chosen from the slides before. And if you were to layer up with this lightweight overall, you will then be protected for a category in a category 3. Which will give you protection for anything up to 25 cal, and that is including the flash hood as well. And then finally, we're on to the last resort of PPE, which is the Cat 4 full switching suit.
Yeah, what I really like about this combination is the length of the jacket and the hood, which means whatever you're doing, when you're moving about, you still get full coverage. And I just want to take this opportunity to mention here as well that if you've got a system rated above 40 cal, it's classed as totally unsafe. It's actually classed as extreme danger. It's generally considered that you would not survive the blast. But of course, you just can't throw your PPE in the corner when you finish for the day and expect it to stay in pristine condition. Which brings us nicely on to care and maintenance. So if you want your PPE to look after you, then you have to look after it. And remember, one day you may have to depend on it to save your life. So it may seem like common sense, but I just wanted to quickly run over a few points. And believe me, I wouldn't talk about them if I didn't think they were important. So what we have, I've said it before, you really do need to inspect your PPE before and after use. You need to look for rips and tears and any contamination. What we need to do is follow the manufacturer's instructions for any repairs and cleaning, and it needs to be stored properly so it doesn't get damaged. And your gloves and helmet, they need to be stored in their bags, you know, to make sure they don't get any damages and scratches. And then we need to make sure that we don't affix badges. They won't be of the same material as your suit. They will fail, they'll catch fire, and they could affect your clothing protection and possibly put you in harm's way.
Which, you know, we'll all agree that it's very important to remember those things that probably people do forget about. So here we have that fantastic offer of £5 off the true colour visor. Don't forget that this visor actually does allow you to see in true colour rather than having distorted vision, which could be dangerous. It fits really easily over your helmet, and as we've seen, it protects even from under the chin with that extra guard. If you call our customer service team on the number on screen, quoting that promotional code, then you can receive your discount. I will send this out to you again, like I've mentioned, so don't worry if you don't take all those details down now. So what we've seen today is that protecting yourself from arc flash needn't be a complicated procedure, purely a case of following the steps that should be taken. It's that hierarchy of controls again. So I'm just going to answer a couple of the questions that have been raised during today's presentation. If you still have something to ask, then do let us know in the chat box in your control panel, and if we don't have time to address it, then somebody will be in touch after. Okay, so Graham, I'll kick off with the first question, which is, what is NFPA 70E?
So NFPA 70 is American standard. Its full title is the Standard for Electrical Safety in the Workplace. It's a very, very comprehensive document, and in my opinion, it's a world leader. Unfortunately, here in Europe, we don't have any standards that goes to the depth that NFPA 70E does. It talks about safe practices, working routines, working live, maintenance. It covers everything. Um, if you suffer from insomnia, it's a pretty good read.
Okay, fantastic. And next question that we've got up is that from Dave, and he's just pointed out that the leg length of the clothes looks a bit long, which is a very valid point, of course. And our Strata brand does supply different leg lengths, but I think I'm right in thinking that they should be a little longer than usual, shouldn't they?
Yeah, the trouser length, leg length, definitely needs to be longer than normal, and that's the sole reason that if you're actually kneeling down, that the ankle does stay covered.
Oh yeah, and there's no excuse not to wear the proper leg length now because size ranges are available from extra small right up to 5XL in both men's and ladies for light and heavyweight material for lots of different climates. And finally, the last time we've got time for is it's a very emotive question. Gary is saying that he doesn't want to take his wedding band off. Is there anything else that he can do, Graham?
Afraid not, Gary. As I said in the presentation, you've got to remove the jewellery. It will get extremely hot. It will get extremely painful, and to be quite honest, it very likely have to be removed surgically anyway. And to be honest, I'm a great believer that people shouldn't be wearing rings at work. Uh, they're too easy to catch on things, and in my lifetime, I've seen far too many de-gloved fingers because of ring incidents.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Like I said, that is all we've got time for today. So that concludes the end of today's session. Graham, thanks again for being our expert, and thank you to everyone for attending. Feel free
My
to
pleasure.
contact us at academy@skanwear.com. Like I mentioned earlier, you will also receive a follow-up email within the next day or so with a link to today's recording. So on behalf of the Skanwear Academy, thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.